What up, y'all? I'm Steve with Elev8, and I want to welcome you to another Elevated 8 experience. And tonight, we have Chadd Lacy. Oh my goodness, this guy is amazing. The whales, the cannons, the balloons, like everything is really awesome. I can't wait for this one. But what I really want to talk about really quickly before we get into this is I want to reach out. I need some help. I need some help from everybody out there, especially all women. We got this new program for our Elev8 brand ambassadors called Elev8 Dolls, and you can check it out, elev8dolls.com. It's really awesome. We got 3 tiers, but it's a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff, and it really, I'm really excited about it. So check it out. Tell me what you think about it. Really excited about this thing right now with Chadd. So let's roll into this. Hey everybody, really excited. We got Chadd Lacy here, and thanks for joining us, Chadd. And how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. First question, I guess, is how did you get started blowing glass?
I went to art school, so I actually went to Tyler School of Art in Philadelphia. I had a lot of experience with ceramics in high school, and I kind of thought I was going to be a ceramicist. But, you know, shortly after seeing the glass program, I just switched to glass.
Yeah, I mean, I think glass is just, it's one of those mediums where I don't know if there's anything like it. Like, I don't know.
No, I think it's definitely unto itself. It has a life to it, you know?
Yeah. And so when you first got into glass, what items did you start out making and whatnot?
You know, I started working out of the furnace. So, you know, like the first few things I made were just like cups, you know, that was pretty much it. It was like gather up glass, try to make a bubble and form it into a cup, you know?
So you actually started out in soft glass then?
I did.
All right. So
yeah, I made my first cup in the year 2000.
Oh wow, man! You know that's what's crazy, because like in the Borel world, usually a blower is making a lot of small things first, and then they get to the cups, because cups are pretty tough.
Yeah, but in the hot shop, the cup is like the smallest thing. You know, I mean, like ornament is smaller, you know, but it's like that's kind of small range. So it's sort of the first thing you start doing is making cylinders, you know.
Right. That's neat. That's just, you know, different back worlds. And so, you know, so you came into the soft glass. How did you transition into the Borel world?
Well, you know, so that Tyler's in Philadelphia. So when I was there, Zach Puckowitz actually Outkick. He was, I think, 2 years ahead of me at Tyler School of Art, and he had already been flame working before he even got there. You know, he was kind of part of that Philly crew with like Snick Barnes and some of the real early Philly guys. You know, just another glass blower. So when I started working with Zach at school and found out flame working, and I started hanging out when he was flame working, and then eventually I bought a torch from him and started doing it myself.
Wow, man, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Do you have any like specific item that you cherish from when you first started blowing glass that you still have today?
You know, there's not a lot of like first items, I would say, but you know, my dad does have what I think I would call my first cup in his office, you know, so that's probably the most coveted thing, although I don't like ever see it because it's, you know, 1,000 miles away from me in his office. But I don't know. I think honestly, you know, there's a weird collection at my parents. That's like the weirdest thing, but of just old pieces from sort of styles of yore, you know, like I feel like, especially having, you know, not only did I start in soft glass, but I worked primarily in soft glass for years before I really fully switched over to flame working full time. So there's a lot of things from that world that I see them again, and I'm like, whoa, I forgot all about that, you know?
Right. When was the last time you did soft glass work then?
Probably like 3 or 4 years ago. Probably 4 years ago now, since I've like touched any soft glass.
Do you have a studio around that you can go to I mean, I assume that's the hardest thing to get back into soft classes.
Yeah, actually, so I work out of South Florida right now. And I moved down here at a weird transition time where I had really been starting to make a lot of pipes and a lot of the whales that people recognize. And then I moved down here to take a job in a soft glass studio. It's like a public access type of studio nearby. And I worked for them for almost a year, like teaching classes there and doing stuff. And they were trying to build out a flame working studio. But eventually it just got to this point where I was realizing that if I spent more time making my own work, I'd be happier and be making more money. And I just left that job.
Well, yeah, that's a smart decision, because I mean you've really become you. I think anytime you think of
Thanks.
a whale, you think of a whale in my world, it's Chadd Lacy automatically. And so how did you get pulled into the whales in that? Was it moving down to Florida? How did that happen?
No, weirdly, it started before that. So I lived in Cleveland, Ohio, before I moved down here. And at the time, my wife and I had been talking about whales, and I was kind of doing some pieces that were whale related, but not really digging too deep. And then one day she asked for a whale pendant. So I just, made her a whale pendant on the torch one night, and that was kind of the start of it. Actually, I stumbled onto the first drawing of a whale rig that I did the other day. Actually, again, it was like I sat down with some friends one night when we were drinking, and I drew the whale, and I was like, man, this would make a sweet bong.
Right on. So you mentioned drawing. Do you also draw as well then? Or you just kind of sketch?
Not so much. Yeah, I sketch. Like I draw to kind of lock an idea in, and or to describe it to somebody else. I'm really not great. I went to art school, so like at the height of my foundation year of having spent 12 months just doing life drawing and stuff, I was probably better than days. If somebody's like, oh, I can draw pretty well, it's like they definitely draw much better than me.
All right. Well, I guess the question is, did you have a mentor when you were starting? And you said you kind of went into the ceramics, and then you met Puckowitz.
Mm-hmm.
So would you consider him a mentor, or just a fellow collaborator, or do you have a mentor in this?
It's funny, actually, because I think most of the people, when I think about real mentorship, for me, they came from the soft glass world, like professors that I had. I do think probably, Zach is probably one of the ones where earliest on, I was really looking to him to learn what could happen on a torch, and other than that, I don't know. I think actually Kurt B's been a big influence on me too, in a lot of ways. We've just become really close friends over the years. But again, it's not like a mentor saying. It's really just like if I had to pick two people that I said have been a huge influence in the pipe world, it's probably those two guys.
Right on, right on. So what classes, if any, have you taken in your career? Obviously, you've taken ceramic classes, but have you taken any hard glass Borel classes?
Yeah, I took a class in 2003, I think, Sally Prash at Penland. I don't know if you know who Sally Prash is. She's like a scientific worker. She's kind of one of the old school flame workers that does scientific stuff. And then I also took a class a year later with Bondu Dunham.
Okay.
Interestingly, that class in 2004 with Bondu, Mike Shelbo was the teaching assistant.
Right, and he's all over now.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I remember Mike talking about how he made these goblins and he was going to do a chart for somebody, but at the time it didn't like sink in. You know what I mean? But It was like before all of that.
That's neat. That's really neat. So where do you get your inspiration from now? Obviously, you do a lot of whales and cannons, it looks like.
Yeah, cannons. I've been trying to do hot air balloons recently too. It's hard to say where inspiration comes from sometimes. I think when it comes to whales, I'm just looking at sea life and, always trying to make a glassy version of it. With the cannons, I really think at first it was about this little experiment to shoot a cannon. I don't know if you've seen the ones that I've actually fired a little glass with, but I made the cannon, and then I wasn't really I don't think I really knew what it was going to be, and then somebody was kind of, I dare you to make one that shoots, and then once I did that, it sort of steamrolled from there somehow.
Yeah, yeah. Making a glass cannon is quite the feat there. So
I know, right? Yeah, I have one I want to shoot again. I need to been meaning to put a video together and do another one. I'm so focused on actually working. It's hard to think about shooting that thing and doing all that.
Well, stay focused, because your glass, it's a pure inspiration to me, and I'm sure so many
Thanks,
else out there. So
appreciate that.
hell yeah, man. Do you have a preferred style or technique that you really like to go towards and use a lot in your work?
You know, I like sculpting. That's probably the thing that I enjoy doing most if I were to apply a single technique. But before that, I would say also it's notable, at least in the Borel world, I think pretty much everything I make starts from a 3-stick blowout that's then sleeved in 2 millimeters of clear. So virtually all my tubing is made through that process.
Really?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you all your stuff, you're literally doing a blowout for it all and creating your own colors, almost thinning them out.
Yeah, pretty much every single piece, I'll pick three rods of whatever color, gather it into a big ball, and do a blowout with it. And then I make that little tube nice to sleeve into I don't know, I think I'm going into 40 millimeter now, and I'll sleeve it up, and then that I can usually get one whole piece from that one section.
All right, so that sounds like a really important thing, sleeving. And
yeah, it is. It's funny because I'm when I think about techniques, I think about color technique and actually I have some of the hot air balloon stuff I was experimenting with, where that line work is pretty techy, and I like doing that, but it's probably the blowout is the most technical thing that I do on the regular.
Yeah, that's really neat, because it's kind of basic. It's like the foundation of a lot of things if you're going to use color.
Yeah, it really is. Everything I make kind of stands on the shoulders of that blowout.
That's really neat. What are your favorite, if you could only make one item, what's your favorite item to make?
I think it is actually the hot air balloons that I'm making now are my favorite thing to make. And I think that's because it has a range of things in it. Being able to make that colored balloon is fun for me, because I've done, stacks of combos or twisty cane and just get to explore different things. And then the basket is always this tiny little reticello section that's just fun to make. It's just stuff that I never do otherwise, and I think that's why I like it the most.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Just putting all of you into you there. So
yeah. Whales are. I really still enjoy making whales, but I made them the most. So it's some of them, especially the humpback. It's a little more of just a common thing. It doesn't feel like an exploration anymore,
Have you been up in a hot air balloon before?
I haven't, actually, which is probably something I should get on. I've been whale watching, so, I've got that covered. We've seen cannons in real life. We probably should take a hot air balloon ride.
Dude, I've done it twice, and it's a ton of fun. So,
oh, that's cool. Yeah. It's pretty high up too. It seems sketchy, huh?
Yeah, but I didn't feel dangerous or nothing, because you feel safe.
Yeah,
hot air rises.
There's something about starting on the ground, kind of bouncing in the basket. You're like, this should be fine, right?
Yeah, I highly recommend it, man. And since
Yeah, yeah.
you're making them now,
Yeah, for sure we should. Yeah.
what's your favorite color to work with?
Ooh, favorite color. You know, it's hard to say. I mean, I guess the my favorite color probably pastel potion. I'm like literally looking at my color rack as we talk about this, like thinking about it. But I did just get some North Star Lucid, which I really like using
I
a
like
lot.
it too.
Yeah, it's really smooth. But the pastel potion, when I get it right, I just think it's like the shiftiest CFL to me. You know, I really I like its outcome a lot.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if you got a favorite color, do you got a color you absolutely hate or not hate, but
yeah.
don't like?
You know, I've put like a whole range of transparent greens into the hate category. Like that, you know, like I'll use a lot of greens. Obviously, I can't like eliminate green from my palette, but there's certain things like I even like I'm realizing how I like push the names of them. Right, even I'm like anything that I see is like a transparent green, and they note that you should, you know, garage it at 975. I'm like, that's not cool for me. That's gonna crack, you know.
Right. Do you garage your
I think
stuff a lot hotter at like 1100, I'm assuming, or 1050?
1080 is what I'm usually at.
Okay.
That's like my go-to garage temperature. I find it works well. You know, it's never really done me wrong, other than those checky greens. You know, and I suppose I could, you know, probably turn the temperature down and focus just on that piece for a day, but it's just hard to work all the effort just for it to like crack in the end randomly. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, to definitely put a short time in your day when it cracks out of the kiln and you go in
Yeah,
there and like, fuck. Yeah.
I had a pretty nasty crack yesterday. It's kind of frustrating.
And what were you working on there?
I was actually making an orca, which they're a little fussy because they have powdered glass on the outside of them, which is just like I don't know, for whatever reason it just is a little more tendent to crack. You know, I have to keep it hotter all through the process, and I actually was working on it and talking to a friend and got distracted and it like snapped. And it's like, you know, sometimes you can fix things, but I spent an hour trying to fix it and put it in the kiln, woke up this morning and I'm like, I don't think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. Um, what is the most difficult piece you've ever attempted?
Ever attempted? Oh, definitely this horse that we'd made recently. I don't know if you saw, my wife and I were commissioned to make a, a carved horse for a collector of ours. And you know, I'd never made a horse before. There's a lot of complexity to it. You know, I mean, even just the head of a horse is challenging. That, let alone to do like the whole thing. Um, and then you know, I'm also collaborating with my wife, Babe Drian, and you know,
Hmm.
she has much more of a refined eye. She can really draw. Like, so a horse for her is like, she's like, you have to get it right. Like, if this looks like a frumpy thing, I'm not going to be down. So I literally had to make two prototypes to prove to her that I could do it so that she would agree to do the project.
Right. And you know, that mentioned, I don't think a lot of people understand what a blower will do just to make one piece. You might make it two times before you're even allowed, or three or four times before you
Yeah.
even make one. Just and
Yeah.
so
100%. Yeah.
that's really neat. Um, do you collaborate often?
Um, you know, not as much as some people, but I try, you know. It's been tough, you know, especially because of the pandemic, because like mail collabs are usually difficult to manage. Like, there's a rare occasion when you know, I know someone super well and it might work out, but usually it's, if I'm going to do it, I like to be in person, you know. So that's the type of thing where we used to travel a lot, and now as travel gets cut down, collabs get cut down. But I think they're, you know, they're fun and important, but you know, you do what you can.
Right, right. Um, what's the most amount of time you've ever put into a single piece?
Man, I don't even know. I mean, if you count prototypes, which I think is probably reasonable, I've probably put a month into a piece before,
Wow.
and that's just, a matter of working and reworking. You sort of anticipate that 2 weeks are going to be, total tragedy, and I mean, it's funny too, because a lot of the time it's broken up. Like, for instance, there's a millie that I've really been wanting to make for a while. So actually, right at the start of the pandemic, I had worked to the end of my orders, which, like, I'm usually back ordered. So I got to the end of my orders, and then I wanted to make this millie. I spent a week doing it. It didn't work. I'm not done, but I probably won't have another chance to get to it for a while. This is like all that goes to the back burner, and a year from now, if I'm lucky, I'll have another week to waste on it.
Right, right. Um, events. Have you ever competed in an event before, like Champs or Melt or something like that?
Yeah, I was in Pipe Classic, I think 13 and 14. So that was just a few years ago, which is a pretty cool one to be in. And, it's definitely top-notch competitors. So it was kind of intimidating going in there, but it was fun. It's like a whole week of party and competition.
How do you like the pressure? Do you feel there's a lot more pressure on you when you're competing on those? And do you like it or not?
I mean, I could definitely do without, I think, if you asked Adrienne, she'd be like, he loves the attention, right? But that's not really it. I think I mean, maybe the best way to answer it is, like, if you think about Pipe Classic, like, everybody has 2 6-hour sessions to work, right? And it's like, you'll get an afternoon, and then the next day you get the morning, 2 6-hour sessions. And so for me, like, it takes 5 days for all the competitors to go. And I'm like, man, I would love to just go the first day. Let me just be the first one to do it. Whatever I make is done. And all I'm doing is hanging out while everybody else works for 5 days.
Yeah. I guess, seeing other people get done, it's more pressure like, will I make it? Now I got to compete with that.
Yeah. It's like, at least if you've made it, then you can't change it. It is what it is now.
I like that. That's a good approach.
Yeah.
Do you consume cannabis yourself?
Yeah. I smoke flower mostly, which I probably should smoke like something better for my lungs these days. I feel sometimes raspy smoking flower. So I don't know. I just think probably low temp dabs would be the smarter thing health wise for me, but I just really like smoking a joint.
No, I feel that, man. I grew up on blunts, and it's just like, they stink, but I just love them. So I feel you on
Yeah,
that.
it's funny. I actually really like smoking blunts too, but the benefit for me is, like, one blunt is like way too much for me, and I don't smoke in big groups much these days. So it's like, they just like kind of cut that out, easy peasy.
Yeah, hell yeah. Um, do you own any pieces, like other artist pieces of yourself, or do you just mostly focus on your own stuff?
Most of the things in our collection are things that, we were like gifted or failed collabs. We have a few things. We do buy glass, but we don't buy rigs. Like, we have a Wesley Fleming spider that we bought, Vetrapod. He makes like real tiny spiders, that type of stuff. And we bought some pendants from people, and but in terms of rigs, like, all the rigs in our collection, I think are hand me down kind of trade things. Or I actually have an ouch kick tube that I bought like forever ago. That's like a real, like, one of the sketch, like, Erlenmeyer flask shaped things that looks like a old bong.
Yeah, yeah. Hell yeah. Um, do you still find that you have the same love and passion today in glass as you did maybe when you started just looking at ceramics?
Yeah, I do think that I really do. I mean, there's times where, you feel bored with it. It's like, like any job that you could ever do, you're gonna get like sick of being at work, but I definitely still, it's still new, and like I still have fun, like making new patterns, or I got a lathe a couple years ago, and like learning that, and it's like, after 20 some years to be able to buy a lathe that's this new tool that I have to like, get over all these technical challenges again. It like keeps it really fresh. It really is something that I continue to find interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Like, no matter what in the glass world, when you're tired of it, you can find another rabbit hole to jump down.
Yeah. And, a lot of that is why I end up, trying to make like the cannons or hot air balloons. It's like, I don't mind being known as like the whale guy, but I just like to make something different,
Right. You're Chadd Lacy. You're not the whale guy. You're Chadd.
I know, right? I feel lucky that, I feel like I came into the pipe game a couple years behind some people, and it meant that I had already had an instant with my actual name established. So it wasn't worth trying to like be a pseudonym,
Right. Hell yeah. So you mentioned Adrian. I guess Badrian would be your wife. I do notice like a lot of your stuff, collaborations. I'm going to assume that you guys collaborate the most, obviously on the horse, and so, I mean, I don't know what the question is. I just, I see her all over your page, and it's just neat.
It's funny actually, because you asked if I collaborate a lot, and now when you bring up Adrian, I'm like, oh right, I collaborate all the time. It's actually funny because we I think the way we work now, we bounce off each other so much that it starts to feel more like one unified thing. Like when I think about, oh, I'm gonna collab, it's like I'm gonna go, or someone's gonna come to me, and we're gonna sort of like separate this time from our lives to do this thing together. Whereas with Adrian and I, it's like we're sort of just always working, so I guess the answer to your question from before is that, yeah, I collab like every day, but it's just part of our normal process now,
Yeah, that's a beautiful relationship there, to be able to work with your best friend and just really enjoy the full life it has to offer.
Yeah. It is. We're very lucky. I mean, I think that there's definitely times that we both want to kill each other. It's certainly not always easy. But yeah, it's definitely great. I mean, even just having someone who's an astute critical eye, like if I like this piece I cracked, it's like maybe I crack a piece and I fix it, and I'm like, I think that's passable, and I take it to her, and she's like, oh, you mean this crack right here? I'm like, all right, it's trash.
Right. She keeps it real for you.
Awesome. She does. Yeah, she does. She keeps me young.
Hell yeah. Is there anything you want to add that we should be on the lookout, or you want to let your fans know that?
I mean, I think it's just always try to be on the lookout for the new pieces. Those are the things that make me passionate, like the cannons and the hot air balloons. Like, I like just to get keyed up to that new fresh stuff, but other than that, like, I'll just always be making glass. So,
Well, I'm always going to be checking it out, and I think a ton of other people are going to be checking it out, and just keep pushing that and pushing the envelope. And I'm really excited to see the next the next Chadd Lacy thing, because when I seen that hot air balloon, I was like, what the fuck, that's awesome. So
yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, hopefully something fresh or new comes. Maybe it'll be that Millie that I'll finally get to work.
Next year, right?
Yeah, next year.
Hell yeah. So it's been really awesome. And I think I want to say thanks a lot for joining us here, Chadd. And I want to say go check out Chadd Lacy, follow him, as well as Badrian. Check and follow her as well. And thanks a lot for some time here.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. See you later, man. That was super, super awesome hanging out with Chadd on that. Like, super cool. I'm stoked. It was kind of a dream come true for me. So good stuff there. And I want to throw another thing out there. We got this really cool thing called Elev8 Veterans. It's our 501c3 nonprofit. Check it out. We're always looking for some help to get some veterans help. And another way that we're looking for help is our Elev8 Dolls Brand Ambassador Program. So check that out as well. And anyways, I want to say thanks a lot for hanging out with us on this really cool Elev8 experience tonight. Elev8, mind, body, spirit.